Hi everybody, Russ back with video number 3. Welcome back. If you are tuning into this, if somehow your first 2 videos went to a spam or what have you, that can happen, or you didn't open them, now you're on number 3. The reason you're watching this email is somebody that you're associated with and is also a good friend of mine referred you. In fact, they probably sent you an email about my newest book, Inner Voice. Unlock your purpose and passion. Purpose always comes first. And what you're getting here, many of you watching probably have bought the book. So what I'm doing is a follow-up video training series just as a thank you to you for going out and purchasing the book. We're getting lots of emails. I'm not sure exactly which may be coming from you that I'm talking to right now, but they've been fantastic. And if you go on to Amazon.com and look up the Inner Voice book, you'll see reviews coming in from my competitors from all over the world. It's really been amazing because this is such a departure, you know, really from anything I've ever done. And I've spent 5 years of my life on this. And you know what? That's how great success comes, not just to me, but to anybody. That's how the law of the universe works. And in our previous 2 videos, we've talked about warrior, statesperson. We talked about this whole book is about how someone finds their purpose. Most of us, you know what, are banging around life like a pinball in a pinball machine. From this to that to this to that. And I'm talking even some of my business peers, they're in what I call tunnel vision self-will. You know what I mean? I chase this. Here's the one when it kills me. And I could open up my drawer here because you're right in, this is where I work, this is where I create. But I could open my drawer here and I can show you 30 legal pads. 90 things on this one, 50 things on that one. I mean, all my self-importance. And you know, if I have 50 things on my to-do list, I'm going to guarantee you that you know 40 of them don't get done, and then they go on the next one, they go on the next one. And when we're in our warrior phase, and if you listen to the last video, I explained to you what warrior is. That's what we think is good, and we get to this whole self-important thing, and that's when most people miss the boat. As you get into further videos, I'm going to teach you a process called the two-way conscious contact. And this is how the statesperson does it. And I don't want to say the big boys, I don't want to be arrogant, but I'm just saying when we grow past warrior and we start to understand that there is an organization to this universe, things happen for a reason is what most people say, but that would be like saying, if you plant a pumpkin seed, you get a pumpkin. See, that happens for a reason. What does that mean? It's just like, you know, when people say, oh, find something you're passionate about. I love that one. And do that and everything will be good. Well, everybody would be doing that. You know what? I like eating bread. I'm passionate about that. So but I think if I do that, I'll just get fat. You know what I mean? There's a lot of cliches out there that are used in the, you know, how to make money arena and the personal development and motivational arena. And listen, I invented some of them. I copied lots of them through my career. It's a process and a place we have to pass through, a place we have to pass through. But it's a place we need to grow from if we ever want to find our true purpose and passion and find that real rainbow, you know, or pot of gold, you know, at the end of that rainbow. And that's exactly what Inner Voice is about. Unlock your purpose, then you build a passion. You know, I can tell you, if you're watching this, if you've been in business, you're trying a business, or you're going to get into business, here's how it usually works for me. Because of my experiences in life, and there's a whole process we take you through in this book called Connecting the Dots Backwards in Life. And that's what leads us up. There's clues along the way, and there's nothing out there that I've ever seen in the motivational world or self-development world that can do it like this does it. But there's clues along the way. That's what gets us to our purpose. Okay, it's usually our childhood experiences or childhood wounds. And you know what? If you're watching this, let me give you a tidbit here, because this is all about content. This is all about thanking you for getting this book. And by the way, with that thank you, if you go to the bottom of this page right here where this video, there's a link. Click on the link, and because you bought the book, you're going to get a free over $200 coaching, free, 45 minutes with one of our Inner Voice certified coaches. And by the way, you may get me, and I don't mean to hype you, but you know, this month and ongoing, I usually take at least 5 or 6 or 7 of those a month, because I like to stay in touch, you know, with our Inner Voice community, because Inner Voice is not just a book. this is just the start. I mean, there's an entire brand behind this. There's an e-learning process. There's a community. There's coaching. There's camaraderie. There's association. This is, for me, a career ender. Although I have investments in other businesses, this is where I spend my full-time efforts. And we have people from all over the world, Norway, South Africa, that I've taught, Austria. I've just been coaching a lady who's a Harvard-trained lawyer in Austria. Just bought a business out there and is going through some struggles. So we're doing some business and some life coaching with her. And that's what we'll do with you too. So make sure you stay through this video series. I think you have lots and lots and lots of great, great, great content. Today I want to talk to you about the game of life. The game of life. Wow. Through my life, I don't know that I ever sat back and thought, what's life really about? What are we here for? And I said this in an earlier video, but you're going to, as you go through the inner voice process, you're going to hear me say things over and over again. And it's going to go like this. You're going to hear, okay, the game of life, or you're going to hear this cliche or that saying. And you say, oh, yeah, I get that. Oh, yeah, I get that. However, 9 months from now, you're going to hear me say it for the 5th time, and you're finally going to go, so that's what that means. Yeah, yeah. If you were to implement, I mean, you could, this is an easy read, you know what I mean? Change your life with one read. But if you were to try to implement this, for me, it probably took me 2 years to really get the whole thing. But I was getting relief and seeing progress all the way, from day one, And I think you're going to find the same thing. So, listen, for 20 bucks or whatever that thing costs, 17, and life changer. For me, I took the shot, but it took me, the problem is, it took me 20,000 hours, 5 years, and spending my own money to travel to 20 countries to find these answers that you can get in a few hours. All right, let's go to the game of life. Intriguing. What is life about? Man, I'll tell you what, and I said this earlier too, I used to refer to it as this hamster wheel. And the hamster wheel, like the pet store. 20 years old in the warrior, find the spouse, get a job, get a car, get a boat, take the kids to soccer and get that all done. Then buy a bigger house, fall into a little bit of crisis here, a little bit of crisis there. 75 years later, we die. What? If that's all there was to this life, and there's a God, I would have to think it would be a very mean God. And I say it all the time. But there isn't a mean God, and that isn't what life is all about. But how many people, including myself, until I was 50 years old, I never sat back and thought, well, what am I here for? It was bigger boat, bigger car, business. Because back at 20 years old, when I got that first real estate book, and it said I could be a millionaire, I latched onto that because I wanted to show all those people who said I was nobody, nothing, I was somebody. And I thought $1 million would do that. And that's what set me on that mission. Thank God I didn't know I couldn't do it, even without a high school education. And I did, in fact, do it. And you know, anybody who wants to do that, Napoleon Hill says it as best as I've ever heard anybody say it. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. You know, you always get that mismatch who's going to say, well, I want to flap my wings and fly. Oh, I want to be able to fly. Well, you don't really believe you can do that. That's why you can't achieve it. That's just being ridiculous. But if you've really got a dream of financial independence, of success, a better relationship, getting out of a bad relationship, dropping weight, getting into your ideal high school or college weight, that's all doable. And it's doable right through this process, you see, because any of those things like gossip, negativity, failure, overeating, undereating, alcohol, drugs, those are all addictions. Every single one of those is an addiction, and every single one of those is a spiritual void. We're trying to fill a God hole that we're missing with something else. And there's a process, and it's not for me, it's not a Christian God, a Jewish God, a Muslim God. It's a God of your understanding, not the God anybody should tell you to have, but that's just me. So in this discussion on the game of life, I think that's critical, and that's what I needed to take a step back and look at. I had the jets, you know, I still got beautiful multi-million-dollar homes, and you know, I'm not broke, but I shucked all of the excess material crap because I wanted to find out what life was really about, what my purpose was. And you know, with the right training, anybody can make money. We can train. I mean, we have training programs here in internet marketing to real estate to whatever you want to do. That's the easy part. No sense in doing that if you don't get the foundational part. You know, for 20 bucks you can get the whole foundation and a free coaching worth $200 just for getting that book and remaining with these videos. Here's what the game of life about. This is what I find. Now keep in mind, in inner voice, we never tell anybody what to do. I'm not going to give you any advice, and I'm not going to give you opinions. I haven't done that. I've given you my experiences. Nobody wants advice or opinions. You've had that from mom and dad and everybody else in your life, which is why most of us stay stuck, blocked up from that happy, joyful, and spiritual place, from that hope and pursuit for success. Many of us lie to ourselves and lie to others about how good we're doing when we really aren't. You know, I've seen that a jillion times. And so the game of life becomes critical. What's it really about? The game of life is like basketball. In basketball, we shoot the hoop, okay? Or any sport, we shoot the hoop. The time clock is an hour. At the end, there's a scoreboard, tells us about the points, win or lose. Okay, game over, all done. Next. Okay? What about life? Sitting back and thinking about the game of life and what's my purpose and who can I help and how do I really contribute? What I learned through this journey was, and you'll learn through this incredible new information, is that the game of life is a search for the truth. Now I want you to just soak that in a little bit. The game of life is about a search for the truth. What truth? The truth with you and the God of your understanding. The truth with you and your Maker. The truth with me and my Maker. How do I search for that truth? This is a start. You see, I used to believe that the body had a soul. That's what I was taught, and many religions teach the body has a soul. And when we die, this body decays and the soul goes off to heaven somewhere. What? I don't believe that today. I don't believe that the body has a soul. I believe that the soul has a body. Because if the soul goes somewhere, well, it has to come from somewhere. And where does it come from? Well, that's a lesson for down the line and perhaps in this video series. Most don't get it till they become a member at Inner Voice. But I don't want to play catch and gimmick with you here. Just understand this, that there's two of us right here, you watching and me here. And there's a human self and there's a soul self. The human self is the one that's selfish, self-centered, arrogant, doubting Thomas, carries guilt and shame and is an anxiety, frustration, fear, and doubt all the time, and worry. And then there's that soul self that learns about the game of life, which we're going to learn right here in this next few minutes, who is happy, joyful, spiritually free, who has a plan and a program for life and is confident with that. And they have a plan that they do every single day based on strategies, charts, things that are in the Inner Voice way of life. And then there's a community, so there's support for each other through this journey. So the game of life is a search for the truth. The truth with you and the God of your understanding. I'm going to teach you how to do that when we get to the two-way conscious contact part. The time clock is today. You see, in all religions that I studied, all spiritual beliefs, all agree at the highest levels. Maybe not at the corner church, but at the highest levels, that God did not build us, human beings, with energy for tomorrow, next week, or next year. In other words, we're not supposed to be living in tomorrow, next week, and next year. We're supposed to be staying in today, just like two birds on an electric wire that never have a nervous breakdown because they live in today, even though they don't know where the next meal is coming from. Now, it doesn't say we can't have plans and goals for tomorrow, next week, and next year. Of course we can. When we live in them, here's what God says. You're going to find anger, anxiety, frustration, fear, and doubt because you're living tomorrow. You start playing the what if game. What if this? What if that does that? Well, that's not here yet. And I lived in that place for years, and it's a horrible place to live. But there is a way to move out of that living in tomorrow space. And that's exactly what I wanted to learn when I went on this journey is how is it supposed to really be lived? Now, here's what they also say. If I live in tomorrow, that's going to be anger, anxiety, frustration, fear, and doubt. Well, if I don't have enough energy for tomorrow, they taught me that I certainly don't have energy for yesterday. When I go living in yesterday, guilt, shame, and resentment. See, about people say, well, sometimes I think about yesterday because, I had a good vacation day. Well, rarely. Most of us go into yesterday for the guilt, shame, and I could have, I should have, why didn't I? We start playing that game. That's why the time clock in the game of life is today. We're going to teach you through this series how to bring it back. And today, you're watching this video, that means you have a computer. You know, you're watching this video, you're probably in a house, or you plugged it into something. So probably everything's okay today. If I'm not worried about tomorrow, next week, next year, or yesterday, then what's the scoreboard at the end of the day? Here it is for me. It used to be bigger yacht, you know, bigger jet, bigger, and not because I was greedy. It was how I learned it to get rid of the pain. You know, my goal to be a millionaire was to get rid of the pain of abuse and parents who were telling me that I was nobody, nothing, I wasn't good enough, and I never amount to anything. I had that all along the way, and just like you have. And I didn't know any better. I thought that's where I was supposed to be. And in the time clock of life, my scoreboard today, at the end of each day, is what is my ratio today? Now look at me, look at this face. I have people who come to me and they look at me, they'll walk around me and they'll say, did you dye your hair? Okay, well maybe a little. Did you lose weight? No. But it's not that. It's that glow of that peace and that confidence of knowing there is an organization and a power to this universe. And we're going to talk about that in a subsequent video called The Immutable Laws of the Universe. So, life is a search for the truth. That's the game. All right, we're going to teach you how to do that. The time clock is keeping it into today. Although we can have the plans and the goals, we just don't live in them. I'll show you how to do that. And the scoreboard at the end of the day for me is, look at my face. What is my ratio? And you can't fake relaxed facial muscles. You can't fake aura. You just can't. What is my ratio of being happy, joyful, and spiritually free with the absence of anger, anxiety, frustration, fear, doubt, guilt, shame? How would you like to live like that? No anger, no anxiety, no frustration, no fear, no doubt, okay? And no guilt, shame, or resentment from yesterday. That we're going to teach you how to master in the Discovery Chart session. So for now, this is a pretty heavy-duty one, game of life. This is how we find the journey, which we're going to find right in these videos here. We're going to take you to how you find your purpose. What are you here for? What did God put you on this earth for? And how do you build a passion for it? And how do you build it into an economic generator? Because no matter what, we've got to make money. We've got to live. You know, we've got to survive in this world. That's just what it's about. So, but how do we do that while we make this world a better place, help some other people along the way, and mature our soul? Maturing the soul is the whole key to life. For now, Russ, Whitney saying best and blessings, signing off.